Time for the news hour. Let's start it off with the Rotarians, who together with the private sector foundations and Coca-Cola have rallied masses for massive COVID-19 vaccination. They made an alarm at a time when vaccination at every district of Uganda is commencing today. In his presidential address on COVID-19, President Yoweri Museveni said that the economy will be reopened after 4.8 million people of the priority population and the vulnerable groups are fully vaccinated. Pedison Mumbere has more.
The Rotarians have teamed up with the Private Sector Foundation and Coca-Cola Uganda to rally masses for massive COVID-19 vaccination.
Today we come here to tell the world, to tell our own Ugandans, that the most important thing to do now is to go and get your jab. Please go and get the vaccine. And the reasons are very simple. We are saying life is the most important aspect anybody would have. If you want to keep alive, please play alive. If you want to keep alive, please respect some of these interventions that have been developed by our friends. We must thank everybody who made it happen that we have vaccines. So as Rotary, we felt that it was important to join the vaccination drive across the country.
They made a call at a time when vaccination at every district of Uganda is commencing today. In his presidential address on COVID-19, President Yoweri Museveni said that the economy will open after 4.8 million people in priority and vulnerables are fully vaccinated.
We have seen economies in America, Europe, even Asia reopening. Why? Because the majority of their populations got vaccinated. Because they had gotten vaccinated, it was possible for them to resume normal operations even with the risk of them getting COVID. So that's what all of us need to understand. This COVID has come. The international scientists are telling us very clearly it's not going to disappear within the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years. So we have to learn to live with COVID. One way of living with COVID, get vaccinated so that, as the doctors have told you, we don't have to go through what we went through in June of this year. It's as simple as that.
The media houses are members of the Private Sector Foundation. The waste disposal companies are members of private sector foundations. Us as leaders, Rotary Club, KCCA, and all of us at whatever level, we are using every medium possible. We're using our chat rooms, we're using social media, we're using our different places of communication to ensure that both the environment but also us as individuals are safe.
Some people had started attributing deaths to vaccines after getting both shots. There were as well rumors that people are having blood clot and other problems like partial paralysis. However, doctors have rubbished such rumors, saying that COVID-19 vaccination is healthy and is needed.
It was something that was meant to be harmful to us. Probably if people were to die, as they had said, within this 1 year, we would probably have seen it. So the misconception of it being harmful, I think from duration we have been around, we have actually been able to see it with our eyes, and that has not proven to be true. If anything, it has saved a lot of lives. The other we have seen, or we have heard, is people saying that if, especially among the female gender, is that when we get it, we may not be able to give birth to children. Again, we have had people in reproductive age getting the vaccine, and they have been to our maternity wards and actually delivered. So probably that is also something that people should say, that in no way will it prevent you from being able to give birth, because at least we have not seen that now, and we have had a long time to observe this.
That's the point of vaccination. It decreases risk. And we must get all Ugandans to understand it so that, as DGE said, we immunize the herd. If most of us are vaccinated, this economy will reopen. People will even have COVID, but you won't feel it. They will be sneezing within their face masks and moving on with life.
On that particular matter, if you're to consider situations of reopening the economy, we can all agree that according to what the president had to say, before the reopening of the economy, he did make statements that we can only open the economy if a 4.8 million termed as priority population has been vaccinated. And on such a matter, the president further highlighted the need for teachers to fully vaccinate, students above 18 years to fully vaccinate, plus the non-teaching staff, if the education sector was to fully reopen in January 2022. We are waiting for that one, particularly because for now, if according to the scientists, it is healthy for you to get your vaccination because it decreases your chances of getting COVID-19, and away from that, it helps to boost the immune system to fight against COVID. And now the fact that we are living in a scary situation of the Omicron variant, this is high time for the Ugandans to get and adapt to a situation of social distancing, getting back to wearing the masks and making sure that you sanitize all the time. And on that particular one, we've seen the Rotarians teaming up together with Coca-Cola and the private sector foundation to push and rally the masses to actually go for vaccination. Drives have been moving on. Different private sectors, different civil society organizations have always been rallying masses behind, and different NGOs plus different private companies have played a very big role to encourage Ugandans to get the vaccination already. A few have got the vaccination, others are still going for the vaccination. If you've not yet got it, then what are you waiting for? Please do and go and get vaccinated. Okay, and away from that, let's move on to the other story, as the leader of opposition has asked the government to consider exempting private education institutions from paying taxes for 1 year ahead of reopening of the schools in January 2022. Matthias Mpuga, while presenting a statement to Parliament on the current state of Uganda's education sector, he said that if tax relief is implemented, it would hold relief of school owners of the debt burden they are currently battling. Babu Isa and Patterson Mumbere reported.
Uganda Bankers Association informed the Parliament in October that the loan portfolio for private school is around 2 trillion, including 557 billion loaned to schools and 594 billion to teachers of private schools, while 600 billion was left to owners of educational commercial buildings like hostels, and all these loans have had an interest rate to a tune of 126 billion. The leaders of opposition has therefore asked the government to consider exempting private education institutions from paying taxes for 1 year ahead of reopening of schools in January 2022. Honorable Matthias Mpuga, while presenting a statement to Parliament on the current state of the Uganda's education sector, he said that if tax relief is implemented, it would hold relief school owners of the debt burden they are currently battling with.
All aware that the public is anxious and desperate to reopen schools, but we also know that after a two-year closure, the education sector is in disarray and therefore requires some high-level leadership in guiding especially private players that actually are the majority in the sector. The schools are in a state of disrepair, but the owners too have no money to start off. I have encountered many circulars from school owners that are announcing the permanent closure of these schools, and this is most unfortunate.
Speaking to Smart 24 TV, Mpuga says that Small Business Recovery Fund proposed to Parliament by the Education Ministry was insufficient to accommodate loan requests from the high number of schools requiring financial support.
Some residual support to private schools, including a grant to private teachers that have not had salary for 2 years, yet these are breadwinners of so many families. This has never come through, and the government, for me, is to blame for creating ambiguities in the stakeholdership of these private teachers' organizations. I think the purpose was never to give the teachers money, and in creating ambiguity in the mode of access, they have succeeded in ensuring that the teachers actually do not get the money.
He also called on the government to present to Parliament a comprehensive resurgence plan for the education sector, indicating the actual dates when schools will reopen, which will guide the appropriation of required funds. The leaders of opposition also asked Parliament to compel private school teachers who have spent almost 2 years without formal earnings to acquire graduate qualification was unfair policy shift.
I can state without contradiction that the sector is lacking leadership. That leadership must emerge and guide the country and guide the sector.
I think there is need for us to be very considerate because yes, we have private schools, but these private schools are dealing with our own children, and the children are not private. And so much as the schools are private, they are doing a duty. They are giving service to the nation, and we know how much impact COVID has had. The schools have been closed for 2 years. There are many schools that, private schools that went to banking institutions and borrowed loan. Unfortunately, because the schools have been closed, majority have not paid back. I have actually seen, even in Gulu, there are a number of private schools that have expressed openly to the parents that they are not likely to reopen.
The opposition also asked the Minister of Education to explain how the September 2020 special directive barring private education institutions from hiking school fees be complied with to shield parents and guardians from exploitation by schools.
My thinking was that first, government would prepare some package to support these schools. And then secondly, to give them some kind of period so they can recover. And that should include giving them some tax holiday, all right? A period within which they should recover, reorganize, and see how to support. Because we are going to put a lot of pressure on them. They have to support our children. And so that becomes a bit challenging for the schools. So I fully support the idea that they should be given tax holiday, but should not just be only that. I think government should think deep and provide some incentives.
Mapinduzi Martin, MP Badeg, Loibi Division, Gulu City, also tasked the Minister of Education and Sports to clarify on the proposed selective increment of salaries for some categories of teachers after Cabinet in August 2021 approved 4 million as the wage for science teachers, 2 million as a salary for head teachers. A decision he says caused a rift between science teachers and one part, the teachers of humanities, on another.
The last member of parliament in this story is Mapinduzi Martin. Honorable Mapinduzi Martin, MP Baradege Laibi Division, Gulu City. And he tasked the Ministry of Education and Sports to clarify on the proposed selective increment of salaries for some categories of teachers after Cabinet in August 2021 approved 4 million as the wage for a science teacher, 2 million as a salary for head teachers. A decision, he says, caused a rift between science teachers and one part of the teachers on that actually teach humanities or social classes. And if you're to look at what Matthias Mpuga did say, that the current state of education in Uganda, that if the tax relief is implemented, it would hold the relief of school owners because of the debt burden they are currently battling. The leader of opposition has therefore asked the government to consider exempting private education institutions from paying taxes for 1 year ahead of reopening of schools in January 2022, saying, look at the fact that school teachers are facing a huge burden of debts, the loans they took from the banks, and if the taxes come back through, they'll have to pay a lot more of that, and they're still worrying whether they will be having the same number of students that they estimate to have by the time schools reopen, because as far as we are concerned for now, most probably we may see school dropouts increasing with the fact that if some haven't attended school for 2 years, and how do you expect them to return to school after this third year? So it is in one way or the other, and you've seen the poverty around this also hits back to the education sector. So this is why the government has been asked to exempt private school owners on taxes for the upcoming year. But will the government do so? Because the government still needs the taxes for the development of the city. It's a 50-50 situation. It's a state of equilibrium. But one would ask and see who is taking the lion's share of the part. Will it be the government saying no, or shall we be seeing this happening? So the leader of opposition also asked Parliament to compel private school teachers who have spent almost 2 years without formal earnings to acquire graduate qualifications because he says that this was an unfair policy shift of the matters. Okay, let's turn our eyes to the next story as the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority is set to celebrate 30 years of serving Ugandans. The Uganda Civil Aviation Authority staff are no longer allowed to use mobile phones and other personal devices on duty at the international airport in Entebbe. The general manager at Entebbe Airport says that it has been noted that with concern that the use of personal phones and other devices by airport staff while on duty has continued unabated despite consequent security and safety concerns. Let's have more of this story.
Uganda Civil Aviation Organization staff are no longer allowed to use mobile phones and other personal devices on duty at Entebbe International Airport. The general manager at Entebbe Airport says it has been noted with concern that the use of personal phones and other devices by airport staff while on duty has continued unabated despite consequent security and safety concerns. Close to 2,000 staff work at the airport. They include airline station workers, cleaners, cargo and passenger handlers, immigration, port health, aviation security and security personnel, among others. In the December 7, 2021 circular, Barungi says that the ban on mobile phones takes immediate effect. He says that no staff, unless permitted to do so, shall be allowed to carry his or her personal phones or other devices to their workstations. He warns that those found in breach of the restrictions shall be subjected to disciplinary action. According to sources, the directive comes months after 4 passenger handlers from Enhance were fired for taking photographs of the children of musician turned politician Robert Chagulanyi, commonly known as Bobby Wine, leaving the country. The photos were posted on various social media platforms, raising questions about the right to privacy of minors and airbound passengers at Entebbe Airport. The same sources say some staff have made it a habit to make and receive calls or chat on social media while on duty. It's not a good signal when you find aviation security officers on phone and yet they have to look out for suspicious items, passengers and visitors at the airport. Airport staff have security tags that indicate where they can or not access. They also wear uniforms, while some who access restricted areas, such as the airside, the arrivals and departure sections, wear reflector jackets. There have been complaints of safety and security arising from the airport staff not wearing uniforms and reflector jackets, concentrating on their phones, while others have been blamed for taking pictures of floors and sharing them with the public.
Uganda Civil Society Organization staff, Uganda Civil Aviation Authority staff will no longer be allowed to use phones. And if you look at this, close to 2,000 staff work at the airport. And these include airline station workers, cleaners, cargo and passenger handlers, immigration, port health, aviation security and security personnel, among others. And in the December 7th, 2021 circular, Barungi says that the ban on mobile phones takes immediate effect. He says that no staff, unless permitted to do so, shall be allowed to carry his or her personal phones or other devices to their own stations. He warns that those found in breach of the restriction shall be subjected to disciplinary committee. According to sources, the directive also comes month after 4 passenger handlers were fired for taking photographs of children to the musician turned politician Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu during the election period as they were flying out of the country. These photos were posted on social media, raising questions about the right to privacy of travelers, simply because someone posted where the children were heading to and still posted the flight they were using and the time they were actually heading out of the country. And then people were asking themselves, why would someone post something so personal, so private, and something to do with family, more so with the children? The same sources say that some staff have made a habit to make and receive calls or chat on social media while on duty, and it is not a good signal when you find aviation security officers on phone, and yet they have to look out for suspicious items, passengers and visitors at the airport. And I think this also takes us back to not only the airport, but if you look at some of the various offices from let's say different buildings and different organizations, more so receptionists, people tend to actually say these people are rude, and the reason why they are rude is because you get to interrupt them when they are on phone. And when someone is on phone and you interrupt them, they tend to feel like you're making them feel insecure, but forgetting the fact that they've actually come to work. So phones are so destructive in a way that people forget to do what they're supposed to and focus on what they be seeing on the phones. And it's quite sad and unfortunate that security personnel at the airport were supposed to make sure they maintain the inflow and the outflow of goods, commodities, as well as the people coming into the country or those who are flying out, because it is very vital to check out, because the airport and the border points have to be on high alert, not only in health matters regarding the virus, but also when it comes to the security levels. We need to be very alert on such a matter. The airport staff have security tags that indicate that where they can or cannot access. They also wear uniforms, while some who access restricted areas such as the airside, the arrivals, and wear reflector jackets. There have been complaints of safety and security arising from airport staff not wearing jackets and the reflector jackets and their uniforms, concentrating on their phones, while others have been blamed for taking pictures of floors and sharing them with the public. Others taking snaps, others taking selfies and all that. And it is a worrying situation. But as far as statements coming in from the Uganda Civil Society Authority, it is that they will no longer be allowed to have phones while on duty. Kayla, let's turn our eyes to the international scene, as US President Joe Biden has nominated former CEO of Hewlett Packard, and that is HPE, Margaret C. Whitman Meg, as the US ambassador to Kenya. She is a Princeton graduate. She went on to Harvard for her MBA and worked for a number of major US corporations, including P&G, Disney, and Hasbro, before joining eBay in 1998. Let's have more of the story.
U.S. President Joe Biden has nominated former CEO of Hewlett Packard, Margaret C. Whitman, as the U.S. ambassador to Kenya. She is a Princeton graduate. She went on to Harvard for her MBA and worked for a number of major U.S. corporations, including P&G, Disney, and Hasbro, before joining eBay in 1998. The White House said in a Thursday statement to the press, among numerous honors, Meg has been inducted into the Bay Area Business Hall of Fame and the U.S. Business Hall of Fame. She received an honorary Doctor of Business Practice from Carnegie Mellon University. Whitman's nomination must be confirmed by the United States Senate, which is split 50-50 between Democrats and Republicans, with Vice President Kamala Harris having the power to break the tie. She is also a member of the board of Procter & Gamble, General Motors, and National Board Chair at Teach for America. Whitman is the former CEO of Quib, a streaming content platform for mobile devices, and has held senior leadership positions at Hasbro and StrideRite Corporation.
And on that particular matter, let's look at a situation here. She is a Princeton graduate. She went on to Harvard for her MBA and worked for a number of major U.S. corporations, including the P&G, Disney, and Hasbro, before joining eBay in 1998. The White House said in a Thursday statement to the press that among numerous honors, Meg has been inducted into the Bay Area Business Hall of Fame and the U.S. Business Hall of Fame. She received an honorary Doctor of Business Practice from Carnegie Mellon University. As Whitman's nomination must be confirmed by the United States Senate, which is split 50-50 between Democrats and Republicans, with Vice President Kamala Harris having the power to break a tie. She's also a member of the board of Procter & Gamble and General Motors and National Board Chair at the Teach for America. Whitman is the former CEO of Quib, a streaming content platform for mobile devices, and has held senior leadership positions at Hasbro and Stratrite Corporation. So what we do know so far is that Kenya has got a new U.S. ambassador to the country. And this time around, it's Margaret C. Whitman. And Margaret C. Whitman will be taking over Kenya. And as we can definitely see that European powers as well as the world economies, the world big economies, are actually eyeing the 2022 Kenyan politics, because Kenya does select or vote in 2022 for a new president. All right, that is it for our news hour. After the break, we return with our topic of analysis. Stick around.